Understand not just a part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Okay, good morning and thank you for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Hope you had a great weekend. Okay, my guest this morning is Mukhtar Mohammed. Mr. Mohammed is a stockbroker and CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. It's been quite a while, but it's a delight to have you on.
Thank you.
Good
Always
morning.
a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, you see, when we have you, of course, people know that we're going to be trying to, expatiate and understand some financial aspect. And the biggest aspect that we have, of course, is that things are very, very tight in the country. Here we are, we're talking about inflation, all sorts of inflation, from food inflation to general inflation. All of that is going on. And then you recall that some time ago, when the the World Bank, let me see it now, when the International Monetary Fund advised the Nigerian government to hold fast to the path of reform that they were on in order to achieve the desired economic goals. Now, of course, you included, when you people are looking at financial matters in that your ivory tower, you'll be looking at the indices, what the figures are saying, what needs to be done by prescription. And so it's, but to the ordinary man on the street, that he has been told that in this day that we are now, you want to buy Mama Put rice, you say put 100 naira rice for me. They will tell you that there's no such thing as 100 naira rice nowadays. That is the commonest reflection of value that I can think of off the top of my head, that even Mama Put food sellers say that if I were to put 100 naira worth of rice in your plate, you would hardly see it. Yeah. So this goes to show how tough times have become. Yet, as knowledgeable an expert as the World Bank, speaking through its resident representative for Nigeria at the recent conference, has said that Nigeria should stay the course. How would you analyze the situation, you being a Nigerian and all, you understanding exactly what's going on, but you also being a finance expert and also understanding what is giving rise to such advice?
Well, reforms have their good sides, and so sometimes when you look at African countries' reform, it's largely driven by IMF, World Bank, most of its international agencies. You can, with Nigeria, you can go as far as or back of 1980, then you go to the structural adjustment program, you go to a lot of these things. How much have they impacted on us? Anytime they come, they leave us way, way worse off than we are. And the challenge with that is because sometimes when they come up with this policy, they are not policy that you cannot take, and then you begin to think of how you can drive it into your indigenous economy, because every economy has a peculiarity. Yeah. But what the World Bank is talking about is being a textbook economy. I call it a textbook economy. Okay. Where they tell you if you do 1 + 1 is going to be 2. And in Nigeria, 1 + 1 is not 2.
Might not always be 2.
Because again, when you look at inflation, you say, okay, how do you term inflation? You just said, okay, remove liquidity out of the system. But when you remove liquidity in Nigeria, then you are killing one of the most vibrant sectors in Nigeria, and the informal sector, because it's largely driven by liquidity. And they employ over 70 to 80% of Nigeria. So how do you balance the World Bank projection, the World Bank policy, and your own policy? I think that's where Nigeria has not really gotten it well. And sometimes, again, it's because when the World Bank is talking, the World Bank is coming, they are telling you this is what they want you to do, so that they'll also be part of it in terms of support. Okay. And so sometimes you don't see that behind the scene when they tell you this and this. They're telling you that for you to get this from us, you need to go like this, because they feel that's the best way to address your economy. Like I keep saying, World Bank is not in Damaturu, and World Bank doesn't know what is happening in Damaturu, doesn't know what is happening in Guru, doesn't even know what is happening in Potiskum. So you need to...
Yeah, but how about the Dr. Christian Ebeke? I imagine he's the Nigerian country representative. I suppose that's, for what you've just said, is why the World Bank will have country representatives. So
well, you know, your country representative, again, deals on data. It doesn't go to those areas to see what's really on ground. You, the government, is on ground. You know what your people are going through. It's just now you see those reform comes in. They tell you that, oh, you wait for some time. You begin to see light at the end of the tunnel and that. But they don't tell you that in developed countries, when you come up with reform, also you have also palliative. You also have something to cushion the pain. Like I said, saying, we started this reform of hiking of interest rate with the United States, with the United Kingdom. Today, their inflation is, as low. United Kingdom is doing about 1.7, and United States is doing about 4%, because that's the peculiarity. They look at their supply chain, they look at household disposable income, they look at electricity bills, they intervene in those critical sectors, then also add up in increment in wages so that consumers will be able to have little you have enough to eat. Because basically, what is government for? Is for prosperity and security. So they make sure that you have food on your table. It's only a man that has food on his table who begin to think of investment and other issues. So those are the ways policy works. But in terms of Nigeria, it's just more or less like, oh, we copy it, we paste it, and we are not looking at what are we going to do to help the man on the street. When you hike interest rate, that means the cost of borrowing has gone up. When the cost of borrowing has gone up, that means small business cannot strive. When small business cannot strive, that means your financial system is in a crisis because you have non-performing loans from there.
And these things you've mentioned, the hiking of the interest rate, for instance, are part of the recommendations of.
They are all World Bank recommendations, but again, when you hike interest rate, you look at your key sector.
This is the problem.
Well, how do you support that system, so that sector, so that this rate hike does not become a systematic problem to your financial sector? You need to look at the bank's balance sheets, the major bank balance sheets for the past 6 months. You realize that non-performing loans are going higher. They are making provision for that. That is a danger sign. What it's telling you is that a lot of people are collecting loans. They are not able to pay. And why they are then not able to pay? Sometimes it's not because they don't want to pay. The consumers are not buying again. People don't have disposable income to buy. And when you look at those disposable income, what people are looking at is what to eat now, and housing and everything. So it's a World Bank policy, but I keep saying that we should look at way to do our own. I give an example. The same thing we are happening to us is happening in Egypt. But what did the Egyptian government do? World Bank came up, liberalize your currency, float your currency, stop subsidy in one area or the other. They said, look, we are going to do it. But the first thing we want is that what is your support? Why are you going to support us? You have to support us with liquidity because we don't want our currency devaluation to go too low. And they did that. And immediately the first day they did the floating of their currency, it went as low. I mean, they lost about 50%. By the following day, whereby they inject liquidity into the system, they stabilize our currency, and it has been about 32% devaluation. In our own case, we floated the naira, we removed subsidy, all two critical issues at the same time. We did not realize that our economy is a petrol economy. It was a petrol economy that everything revolved around PMS. The car you drive, the school you transportation, schools, every aspect of our economy.
But every aspect.
So it's either you are buying fuel to fuel your generator, you are buying fuel to move your car,
or even the barber.
Everything is PMS. But we didn't look at that. We just did it. And so we need to look at what really works for us. How do we support our SMEs? They are the largest. They are the ones that have the largest growth in terms of employment. It's not government. Government does not even employ up to 10% of Nigerians. How do you support those businesses? I think those are the challenges that we are facing. It's not the IMF policies are not right.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you take the IMF policy, you need to look at the peculiarity of your own environment and come up with an indigenous, or I call it indigenous, way of solving your problem. One of those ways that the government have come up with is in the area of import of food items. The president said every food item that comes into this country will not more pay tariff, especially household food items. The customs said, oh, we are waiting for Ministry of Finance to name those duties, those products that will be off duty. It's almost 2 months where the president made this announcement. Up to this moment, nothing has been done in that area. So you see that also is a key driver of inflation. That is supposed to be an executive order from Mr. President, but yet we are seeing customs say no. We're seeing presidency say, oh, we have to go through the National Assembly. So I don't know where the place of. I think executive order supersede whatever you have done. Does that mean the executive is giving an order? So until another executive comes in and said no, that order no more stands. So that is one. we see the Dangote issues again. We see the fuel. We know that our economy is a fuel-driven economy, and they said, okay, you know what? We are going to give him crude oil. We're going to give him in naira, by a fixed exchange rate. That's what Mr. President said. So there's going to be a fixed exchange rate. Up to this moment, we don't know what that fixed exchange rate is. Is it the willing buyer, willing seller exchange rate, or is it the fixed exchange rate? And what were the criteria for you to come up to that fixed exchange rate? If you do that, then you should, if we have done a fixed exchange rate, we should see the cost of PMS come down, and that will help our economy. So the challenge here is we have the right policies, but in terms of implementation, we have this bottleneck.
You know, this is a point that is often made by our contributors, that there's a gap between policy announcement and policy implementation.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing, okay, if the papers will be full the following morning, Nigeria has now decided this. Nigeria is taking away, the taxes on all of this. But then, as you said, we experienced this on the pharmaceutical side of town as well.
Yeah.
Where the pharmaceutical community is saying that, yep, we've heard about all of those things. In any case, maybe the way the public understood it is not the way we are seeing it, because the way we are seeing it is that these tariffs are on raw materials, not finished drugs in the first instance. And even at that, we haven't been able to get a go-ahead on let this policy begin. Let us see where we are. So this is the kind of thing that you're talking about again. And even the country rep was saying that there was an acute policy trade-off that stemmed from inherited imbalances. That is the way, this is among the things that he was saying. And all of this is just, maybe this is why Nigeria is not ever going to go the whole hog the way the IMF wants it, because of what you've stated so expressively this morning, that we have to find our own indigenous way. It's like we don't want the piece of the graveyard. No. You still have to recognize that it is people. And so this is why we are where we are. But it is also going to keep us where we are for a long time. This is not going to be a short fix.
Well, the IMF still say that it's going to take 15 years. To all back,
can you imagine?
It's going to take 15 years for Nigeria economy to come. But I totally disagree with that.
That is too long.
That is too long. But again, it could happen. Maybe you are saying in 15 years we'll be among the global economy.
Okay, that is it.
Maybe that's what you are saying, because what you need to see is that when you come in with a policy, I think what we've not seen government do for some time is that you have to be sincere with your people. You need to let the people know the pain that they are going to take. Is it for the next 1 year? What are the key indices? What are we going to achieve in this policy in 1 year? Are we going to achieve inflation coming down, and at what percentage? Are we going to achieve price stability in terms of PMS?
Do they even have that kind of control, that kind of knowledge control?
It's all about having we have an economic management team. So you need to look at policies and say, look, by this policy, this is what let me give you an example. You said they made a statement. They said 40% of the pressure on our FX is largely driven by importation of refined petroleum products.
Okay, 40%.
40%. That was the data that the CBN gave. Now, if you have 40%, and out of that 40%, now you are saying that will no more experience 40% of that pressure, because we are going to be selling crude for Dangote in naira, so there will no more be that pressure. So at this moment that you are selling crude from Dangote in naira, the immediate impact that we will see is that the exchange rate should drastically come down. Demand and supply. If you have a supply and 100% and is down by 40% in any company sale, that is huge. That would drive down the cost. That will affect the bottom line of the company.
That's right.
But what we have seen is that with this pronouncement, we've rather seen that the exchange rate is moving in the parallel market to 1,700 and the official market to 1,650.
Yep.
So what we are saying is that means the challenge is not that 40%. And that's what I keep saying over the time. The challenge is the retail angle. That retail angle does not need $1 million. They need $500, $1,000, $3,000, $2,000. that angle that the bureau de change normally service. We have not pumped in enough liquidity. We have not attracted enough liquidity in that space. So you are doing a policy, good policy on paper, but in terms of seeing the result, you realize the result is not coming out.
Okay, Mr. George, good morning. Thank you for calling in, and also thank you for holding on. Go ahead now.
Yari.
Good morning.
Good morning to Mr. Mohammed.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay. Uncle Yori, I think it is not advisable to take the advice of the World Bank and IMF hook, line, and sinker, because they are more academic than being real. If you look at the recommendations they give, it doesn't have universal application because of the realities on ground from country to country. In our situation, for example, they say float the naira, but they do not put into account the fact that if you float the naira, what is expected in the transaction market does not materialize the way it is. For example, we had planned that if we float the naira and we have subsidy removed, foreign exchange that will come from the process, we reduce demand for foreign exchange. But the IMF does not know that it doesn't work like that in our country. Some stakeholders, we hijack the money midway, and it will not flow in the market as the World Bank expected. So if we have a situation where things don't work in the normal way, you have to also adopt policies that can work in that environment. And I think that is the argument Mukhtar is making. I quite agree with him that we should look for a way, a system, what works for us, not necessarily what works for the IMF as they see it. They see people, not last week, Reverend Dominic was narrating how he is unable to fuel his car. That for 2 weeks, he has not been able to fuel his car. A situation like that is on ground. And then the World Bank is still telling us, go ahead, float the naira, remove fuel subsidy. For how long? Is it when somebody is not able to fuel his car for 1 year that we will know that it is a wrong way to go? So the government needs to be realistic. What I mean by being realistic is if there is a policy you have taken as a recommendation from World Bank and you test it's not working, change. And do the one that can work for your own country.
Indeed.
The suffering is much. Nigerians are not very difficult to manage. I've said it before. If you have a system that works, it's for the benefit of all. Don't say because it is few people who are benefiting from it. As long as those ones are happy, then the majority, it doesn't matter. No, it is not. It's not good like that.
All right,
we want IMF to know that our situation in our country is peculiar, and policies also have to be peculiar. That is the truth of the matter.
Thank you very much, Mr. George.
I have to say on this matter.
Appreciate your call. Appreciate your call. Thank you very much for calling in. Indeed, it's part of that is what you've also.
Yeah, but one thing I want to add is that principles are the same. It's just like principles are the same anywhere in the world. When you talk about economic principles for investment, for prosperity, they say you save, you invest, you save, you invest, you make sure that your money is growing. Those are common principles. But they are different products to different countries. So in different countries, there are some products that you have available to invest your money in. In other countries, there are different products. So everybody look at the peculiarity of his own economy and come up with the product that suits it. So that's what I'm saying, that the principles, I'm just trying to say, the principles on the textbook's economy, yes. But in terms of implementation, you must look at the peculiarity of your own environment. What product do you have in your own environment? What are you selling to those people? So that is where our challenge has been. it's not because those policies are not working in other countries. If you see there's inflation in the US or in the UK, you are looking at distortion in terms of supply chain. You are looking at distortion in terms of liquidity in the system. So they come up, they say, okay, you know what, let's reduce liquidity in the system. Let's see how we can improve in the supply chain. But when you look at Nigerian inflationary pressure as it stands now, there's a unique peculiarity. One, inflation is driven by cost of production. Two, our inflation is driven by microeconomic policy, like hiking interest rate and that. Three, our inflation is driven by FX volatility, which is not common in those developed countries. And how? Because we import virtually everything that we take in, and we export only crude. Even when you say, oh, non-agricultural sector, when you look at the non-agricultural sector, when you see those numbers, the agricultural sector is doing 93%. When you look at the 7% that is coming from crude, it's higher than the 73% that is coming from the non-agricultural sector. So you need to look at all those things and say, you know what, where do we drive growth? Look at nations like Dubai. Look at nations like Qatar. Look at nations like even Saudi Arabia now opening up. What they are doing is they are looking at their mainstream of income. And they are saying, okay, how can we improve investment in those sites? And then we'll begin to use it to diversify. Look at Japan. Before now, the only thing you know Japan for is car. But the last report says that Japan has made about $39 billion in the area of tourism. They are beginning to say, look, we have competitors in the United States. There might be tariff hike. So they are looking at the future and say, look, how could we begin to improve our tourism sector so that we can earn more income? We cannot depend in just our technology advancement. So let's use our technology advancement, but in the area of tourism. That is how an economy should think.
So this diversification is the challenge that we are yet to
because we play lip service to it. The only time you hear diversification, Uncle Yorin, is once our exchange rate is down, once our reserve is down, once there's crisis, we cannot export crude and oil. You say, oh, it's time to diversify, it's time to diversify. Immediately there is stability in that space.
We forget. Reverend Dominic, good morning to you, sir. Thank you very much for holding on. Go ahead now, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can hear you clearly.
We can hear you. We can hear you well.
Okay. Good morning, Mohammed.
Good morning, sir.
And I don't know that my friend George is this great economist. I'm not an economist, but I want to say certain things about our policy. Yori and Mohammed, if you remember in 2016 or 17, I can't remember well, our president then went to China. And when he went to China, we have a policy of MOU they signed according to them of what they call Naira swap, which means yes, Nigeria is the greatest importer from China. Instead of which to go through dollar and go to China currency, Nigeria should go direct to China and buy from China. They call it Naira swap. Everybody heard that policy. Today is 9th year. Buhari have left office. That policy have not seen the light of the day. Mohammed, I'm not against IMF. I'm not against World Bank. The envy of Nigeria, 200 million people with all mineral resources, they can give you policy that can destroy you. I'm against our own people. You made a statement now. Our president said that we should remove tariff from food imports so that at least food will drop. Since June to October ending, that policy have not seen the light of the day. I want to plead to him. Now he has opportunity to change the cabinet. Who is responsible for Mr. President to make executive order, and that executive order will not be carried out? Who is that? Why I love this president, if I can take his word. He said the ball stopped on his table. If the ball stopped on the table of this president, please, when you are going to reshuffle this cabinet, find these men and women who makes your policy impossible and remove them so we can move well. I believe Mr. President mean well, but one man cannot be, foreman. Sometimes ago, when he went to Chatham House before the election, he displayed this act that governance is not for one man. So when they ask him a question, he said, this man answer it, the other one answer it, so that because I may not be economist, I may not be, maybe whatever, but there's experts who can help me carry out the policy. But we're not seeing it at this time. I don't blame IMF. I blame our people who make policy, and I cannot follow that policy to the fruition. That's what I blame. This world, they envy us very well, but we're not envying ourselves. Since 1996, 65 kobo to $1, and they begin to fight us to devalue. Today, our naira, which is stronger than dollar, have become like a paper. You can't imagine what is it. I don't blame IMF again. I blame Nigeria and the policies they make, they cannot follow up. Good morning, Nigerians.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. Painful contribution for reasons that Mukhtar has,
like the currency swap.
Yes,
that was a good policy. But again, you see, we keep saying that it's a two-way system. How much of business do China do with you, and how much of business do you do with China? So when you talk about currency to become a means of exchange, there must be balance.
Yeah. I wonder, this relates to, what is this new arrangement?
The African Continental Trade Agreement also
well, that, but also one where they say the currencies of Brazil and
BRICS nations.
The BRICS nations.
Even that will not work because the BRICS nation, I keep saying, how much business do you do within yourselves? You look at the European nation, why did they come up with a single currency? It was because of the level of business and the level of infrastructure, trade, transportation within themselves. So there were a lot of exchange. There was a balance of trade.
Yes.
So Chinese will not allow you to dump all your currency on them, and they are not able to bring their own currency on you. So what did this currency swap mean was that, okay, if you're in Nigeria, you go to China, you use Naira to do transact business. If you're a Chinese, you come to Nigeria, you use Chinese yen to transact business. And it went, maybe they didn't know, it went as far as then the CBN also had a reserve in Chinese yen. Towards we are putting reserve in Chinese yen, saying that the next big global player in terms of business will be China. So we need to build our reserve in that yen. But that could not see the light of day because virtually everything we import from China. So what do Chinese do here? They come in here and only do construction works. They do construction work. And this construction work has a lot of things tied to it. It's a long time. It's 25 years. So you don't have that balance of trade. So currency swap cannot work. That is why common currency between ECOWAS nations is not working. Because how much business do Nigeria do with Ghana? How much business did Ghana do with Benin? How much business did Benin do with Nigeria? So there must be a balance of trade before you begin to talk about currency swap or a common denomination.
What to your mind is the challenge within the CBN, who are supposed to oversee our monetary policy and all of that, because we've heard quite a number of interesting and indeed promising statements from the governor of Central Bank in the past, but perhaps it's my not knowing enough about it. They all fizzled out. And we're back to where there was a time when we thought, in fact, they themselves were able to say that, you see now, things have improved, a bit. But that was just...
you see, the challenge is you have only 1-2 monetary policy. It's just like Nigeria now. Nobody look at local government chairman. Nobody looks at governors. The only place people look at governors is when it is time to pay salary. Now, in Nigeria, we only look at the president. Everything is the president that costs it. Something happened in Damaturu, they say, hey, Mr. President. That is the same thing that we are seeing with the CBN. CBN will always do what they have to do based, like the CBN governor says, data-driven. Now, what is the monetary policy doing? You talked about when they were celebrating it. Now, they were celebrating that because inflation came down for 3 months.
Yes.
And why was that? There was stability in PMS. Supply was there, price was stable. Then we're thinking of, very soon, Dangote refinery, the perception was high. All of a sudden, we woke up one morning, they had their meeting, everybody was excited, the last monetary policy, we were saying, finally they will cut rate.
Yes.
Unfortunately, they hike rate. What did they see? They saw that going forward, subsidy will be removed. So price of goods and services will come up again. So we need to begin to see, because the CBN governor will almost give it to him. Finally, they are agreeing that the inflationary pressure in Nigeria is driven by FX. So they hike rate, where America have reduced rate, so that most American investors will bring in their FX into the Nigeria economy. And that, because we are import driven, that will bring more liquidity in our system, that we'll be able to use that to stabilize our rate. Unfortunately, that is not happening because no foreign investors want to come into your country without a stable exchange rate. If I come in at 1,600, I don't want to exit at 1,200. It's either I'm exiting at 1,600 or I'm exiting at lower than that. So that's the challenge.
Indeed. Elder David, good morning to you, sir. I'm afraid I left it a wee bit too late. So sorry about that, Elder David from Limonshaw. Okay, stay with us, please. We'll go on break. We'll be right back. Perhaps Elder David will call back in again. Stay with us, please.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV station of the year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Okay, welcome back. And with Mukhtar Mohammed, stockbroker and CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. We're looking at the World Bank recommendation to the federal government to sustain economic reforms, which, you know, the totality of which is not the sweetest pill to swallow, even though some of it might be necessary. Moses in Port Harcourt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Please go ahead now. Thank you for calling in.
Okay. Yeah, you know, the issue of your analyst is speaking to very critical issue about that Nigeria. But the question one will begin to ask is this one, Kuyori. Is World Bank Nigerians' enemy or they are our friends? I say this literally. One, your analyst made a very valid point. He said, look at what happened in Egypt. They said, what do you have for Egypt? They mentioned this and that. The people were understand the dynamics of Egypt's economy, and they know what to do so that they can stabilize their local economy. In the case of Nigeria, floated currency, subsidy removal, no shock absorber to address the matter under context. How then do you think we can actually? That's why I say, to say that, oh, they sustain your economic reform, it is this and that, we should, okay, can the World Bank tell us that this is the timeline of recovery from your economy? This is the timeline, or these are the indices you are going to see. If this is like this is what is going. Nobody is saying any of those things. That's why, to me, honestly, until we have a deliberate policy to stimulate our mid-sector economy, until we have a deliberate policy to ensure that, you know, most of this inflation that we are seeing, it is actually forest-driven. Forest-driven because of our over-dependence on import, and also because of the attitude, or I'm sorry, sir, I need to say this, the attitude of our political class in warehousing fund using foreign currency. And this is the problem. So if we can be deliberate, you know, and then if we can be deliberate in addressing this issue, honestly, World Bank cannot come and be telling us that this is not this. What are we expecting? What are we getting? How are we balancing our balance of trade? Like the analyst said clearly, these guys are coming into our country with long-term plan in terms of constructions and all of those things. And they are seated, China's are seated there very deeply. So you see that there's a consistent inflow of foreign reserve into their country. Even the China that has this kind of reserve, the question is to be asking, has China ever accepted to ever float a currency for any reason, irrespective of the robust economic nature and the robust reserve that they have? Have they ever? then why is IMF not suggesting to China in similar direction? What is the bigger question I'm leaving us with, sir?
Thank you very much, Moses, for calling in.
Well, you know, China, most economy in the world depend with China, even the United States. And that's why we keep saying that devaluation itself is not suicidal if you are a producing nation. When China wants to deal with the United States, they devalue their currency.
Okay. Yes.
So the United States begins to say, why do you devalue your currency? They devalue their currency and make sure goods from China are not cheaper. And they flood the market. I mean, a lot of people will be buying the Chinese goods rather than the American goods.
Yeah. As you know, there's so many things that America will not allow. For instance, America is not allowing electric vehicles, Chinese electric to come into.
It's cheaper.
And better.
Better, because they devalue their currency.
Exactly.
So devaluation in itself should be good when you are having a lot in terms of production. Because we have devalued our currency now, it's cheaper for those abroad to invest in Nigeria. It's cheaper for you to attract foreign investors. But you here, you are suffering. So that's the same thing in terms of trade. So we need to begin to look at what can we, as a country, be competitive at. When you talk about crude, they say we are 6th in the world. But when you talk of refined petroleum product, we are not even in the first 20. When you talk about agriculture, we are jack of all trade, master. We had cocoa, we have granite. But when I tell you Ghana, you say cocoa. Even Cameroon.
Mukhtar, look at the promise of having our own refinery, you know, and it's been said that the Dangote refinery is the largest, refinery.
Single train refinery.
Single train refinery. And so a lot of people were looking towards that with a lot of hope. Lo and behold, all sorts of infighting.
No.
Infighting erupted.
You see, when it comes to petrol, PMS, when it comes to the energy sector, when it comes to the oil and gas sector, I've said it in one of your programs. I said, what the government should be driving first is availability. That's why I say you must have your strategy. Availability is key. Like somebody said, Reverend Dominic said for 2 weeks, he couldn't go out because it's not that he couldn't afford fuel, but it was not available.
It wasn't even available. And even affordability, he said it's still a factor.
It's a factor, but availability first.
Yes.
When you have availability, then you begin to caution yourself, do I have to go to this place, but let me put so amount. You know, it's available.
Have you realized, Mukhtar, that right now there's this availability of fuel challenge again as we speak?
That's what I'm saying. Availability is key. Now, why are we not having availability with the Dangote refinery? I keep saying there's 2 ways to it. And one, this is my scenario about it. It's either, one, Dangote is not producing enough of what they promised they will be producing. That is one. Then secondly, is either NNPC also is not giving Dangote enough of the crude that they promised Dangote. Because if these 2 factors are there, then Dangote alone, refinery alone, said it can supply about 60 million barrels per day.
If he were to get all he needs in terms of crude.
Which so now we are looking at it. Somebody is telling us. He said, NNPC said we are giving him 400,000 barrels of crude. He said, no, we are not receiving that. NNPC also telling us that Dangote is not even meeting up to the amount they said he will be meeting. So that's where we are not looking. That's availability. And now this availability is likely driven because how much are you producing?
Mazi Okorafo, good morning to you, sir. Enaro Chuku.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, I guess.
Good morning.
Sir, honestly speaking, when we talk about the World Bank issue, what you're talking about, you see, yes, we can solve this problem without waiting for the 13 years. Even the 13 years is even too small. Now, you ask yourself, the local government we have in Nigeria today, 774, what are we doing? By the time the local government will harness the natural resources they have in their local government that have a comparative advantage, all these focus will not work. Now, you ask yourself, in a family, how do we look at that? Look at what is happening generally now, in terms of energy, what is happening. For the past 1 month, the energy, the federal grid has been collapsing. And even yesterday, we still having the same collapse in our place where we are staying. Now tell me.
How about you people in Aba are good now? I mean, you people in Abia are good. I saw a public relations notice that where it came out that why Abia is not involved in the systemic collapse.
Even when they are forecasting for us, with the economic theory we have in Nigeria, the experts we have. They know the formula they can follow. But the question is that we are not implementing this. When we come out with formula, the formulas are not being implemented. Now you come back to the schools. What are the schools supposed to do? The schools are supposed to make use of all those entrepreneurial sectors they have to get whatever they want. It helps us solve all these problems. But maybe we are good in policy making, but let us do the needful. Like bringing people that are ready to do it, or people that are ready to deliver. That's the only solution. But as long as we sit down, recycle people who just come there, collect money and bring high profile stories and come to us and tell us, foreign IMF said, World Bank said, that is not the story. Let's come back to the basics and do the needful. That's the only solution.
Thank you very much, Mazi Okorafo. Well, effectively, it's almost as if you were to liken it to, a football team and the managers and all of that, and saying that, look, this particular team, maybe we need to rejig it. I guess.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you.
That's where we are now.
Yeah, especially if you are a supporter like me of Manchester United. Today you are up, then tomorrow you are down. You are saying, is it the player, is it the coach? The same players will play better in the second half with the same coach. Then in the first half they are not doing well. So what's the problem? Do we change the coach or do we change the entire team?
And that's an outstanding idea of Mr. President. That look, I think it has been said that it will be done. We're going to be rejigging.
Sometimes when we talk about rejigging, when you wait too long, you don't even see the impact. Because, look, when you say you want to rejig, it's only in Nigeria they tell you 6 months or 7 months, and we are still waiting for the rejigging. You see, sometimes you should just hear that there is a cabinet reshuffling.
Yes.
Those days, even the military used to do it. You don't even know. They say there's a cabinet reshuffling. So we need to come to that point. The only person that was able to do such things like that, we wake up in the morning and hear there's a cabinet reshuffling, and the ministers do not even knew there was cabinet reshuffling.
Exactly.
Was President Obasanjo. After he left, every cabinet reshuffle have come with a rumor that there will soon be cabinet. I remember that President Obasanjo, what he used to do then was that once he's giving you that appointment as a minister, you sign 2 letters. The other resignation letter is with him. So when you are not performing, you present a resignation letter. So yes. Maybe we need to copy from.
Akin in Akute. Good morning to you, sir. Are you there? Good morning, Akin in Akute.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear us? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead.
Please, I want to point it out that our major problem in this country is neglect of agri production. We are supposed to be agro-based. Before the oil boom, we were living on agri. But see, Malaysia took the seedlings of oil palm from Nigeria. They are one of the world leading producer now. Agri is our problem. The government should channel their resources towards agri, state government, local government, and so on. Then, as for the World Bank is a bank that is even killing us. As at 1982, to and fro, London was 500 naira. 500 naira cannot even get you a meal in a restaurant these days. So that's our major problem.
The cost of a soft drink.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
I think we shouldn't always be. You see, World Bank, we are a sovereign nation. We should understand that. World Bank will push their policies to you. You as a sovereign nation, you have the right to accept or reject. So a situation whereby we are blaming all our program on World Bank, we should also take responsibility.
Indeed.
Somebody said the president said the buck stops in his table. World Bank can give you whatever policy they want to give you, and you said no. Remember that President Buhari was sold all this policy by World Bank. And he said, no, I will not do it because of the impact on my people. Even if we realize, even if we know that economically that was one of the worst administration had for 8 years. But there was something that was available for everybody. Cost of living was not this high, even if we were suffering in the other way. So he looked at it, he said, look, I can do this, but the environment is not conducive for me to do that.
The impact on the people.
The impact on the people. So once they come up with this thing, you should always know that your greatest resources while you are in governance is for the people. Once the people are not being impacted by your policy, whether World Bank is shouting and one man like the World Bank telling us that Nigerians don't go and protest, so Because they were telling us that don't change this course. Don't go and protest. Just allow it run. Oh, because if you go and protest, it will be worse off than before. If you stop it, that's what they're telling us. So I think we are a sovereign nation. We should look at what can work for us, and there we go with it. We must know what bank policy could work in some area. If what bank is telling us, or IMF, they're telling us that, like, I think it's one of I heard when the president, is it the president or during the visit to Sweden by the vice president, was the president, and they are telling us, everything saying that I want to be the hub, a telecom hub in Nigeria, whereby we could help make growth in terms of telecom infrastructure, and those are the type of things. If they say they are bringing those kind of things and they are going to bring it with FX, it's going to cost a lot of investment, why wouldn't you welcome them? But when they are telling you to do a process where they will not even be there to, first of all, put what we call the seed capital, don't take it. Egypt say, bring your seed capital. Once you drop your seed capital, we'll follow your policy. But we, in our own case, we implement and we say, okay, IMF, World Bank, what can you do for us? How much have they done? Even the loan that we are expecting from them, how much of those loans have we gotten? Despite them saying, oh, we are going to give Nigeria 6 point something, we are going to give Nigeria 1 point something. Later on, they say, oh, we are not meeting the parameters, so it's going to take 1 month, it's going to take 2 months. So we need also, as a sovereign nation, say, this is what we want. Do you go with us or we go all out ourselves?
And really, at the end of the day, that's the bottom line. Yes, the World Bank can indeed advise, as it has, that in order to sustain, the economic reforms, these are the ways that they see that we should be going. It's advice. And as you said, we're a sovereign nation. We then have to know what to take. But it's like the administration doesn't have all the time in the world, because the pain is much. And the president is acutely aware, to his credit.
Yes.
He tells us.
Yes.
He tells us that I am aware. So that's why I'm just looking at the situation where,
I think for the president, we have to give it to him, but to his maybe his handlers, I don't think they are aware. Well, because the only time, it's only the president that comes out and say, I'm aware of your pain.
Indeed. Well,
most of his handlers don't come out and say they are aware of our pain. Yeah. They rather say, we are seeing the result of the progress. So you see, it's only the president that will say, I can see you are feeling pain in this policy. Well, but wait for me. But when you look at his handlers, they said, we are seeing result. It's only you that are feeling the pain. You are beginning to ask yourself, where is the result? What's happening? But Mr. President will come and say, I feel your pain. Or the handlers will come and say, look, this pain is minimizing. Things are getting better. You look at this, you look at this. So I think there must be a synergy in that area. So that Nigerian knows what we are going to encounter. Then we prepare ourselves for it.
And this one that they have told us that there will be a cabinet reshuffle, Nigerians are now curious.
And they told us this since almost a month now.
Nothing has
happened.
Mr. President, he just arrived back in the country.
Maybe his traveling is to do those cabinet reshuffle, whether they will not
not to be distracted. They can plan and strategize. Maybe we're going to be hearing very, very shortly, perhaps even within the week, today being Monday, within the week, that now this is the way we shall be running. Because the president is watching everything. He's seeing that we are not happy. The people are not happy. It doesn't matter what party you're from.
Yeah.
And it must be concerning to him.
It's very concerning to him. We must give it to him.
So thank you very much, as always, Mukhtar, for coming on. Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed is a stockbroker and CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. That's our program today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.
The following is a paid presentation by